Regrets as a software engineering student. So the other day I was thinking about things that I wish I would have done as a computer science student or a software engineering student, and I figured I'd just share some of my thoughts with you guys if you're currently in that stage of your life. So I've just listed down here a few things that I think are important and that I think most people could benefit from. You might get super interested in random things and you might just want to jump right into it to start, but what I would recommend is take some time and just doing a little bit of research, maybe like a day or two of just kind of, what the average lifestyle is in that specific specialty, and just kind of reevaluate if that's something you actually want to do. Building a relationship with your professors, and it'll make it easier for them and for you to get a recommendation letter if you ever want to go and further your education in any sort of graduate program or research or even a job. I also see a lot of people going into graduate programs whenever they don't get a job straight out of school, which I think is a pretty good alternative, but just understand that is graduate school and undergrad are completely different workloads, so keep that in mind. Joining a club and being part of the board in that club is extremely helpful too. I'm sure every school has some sort of computer group or club you could join, and I think just going to some of those things and meeting people and going to their events is extremely helpful for your career, and also for building those connections that you'll have probably long term, especially if you're going to stay within your area, like your local city that you went to or that you currently live at and that you went to school at. Looking for more co-op and internship opportunities. Now, this is extremely important, especially if you don't plan on going and getting some sort of graduate education. I think a co-op or an internship is absolutely amazing. You don't have to stay with the company that you intern with or you do a co-op with. You can use it strictly for learning and building your skill sets, but keep in mind that those companies are investing in you early on so that they can potentially offer you a full-time position when you're a graduate. So with that in mind, when you do an internship or a co-op, you might find out that company or that field or industry might not be something you're super interested in, which is great because you learn that, and also you now have something put on your resume for something later that you are interested in. Career fairs, even if you're not a junior or a senior, career fairs are great to go to just to get familiar with them, understand how the flow of traffic works, how the people interact with one another. It's a great place to be early on, and so you can prepare yourself for when you're ready to go in and search for jobs, because if you familiarize yourself with the environment beforehand, you're much more prepared than if you just went to the career fair last minute with a resume you built the night before, and things are just a whole lot more smooth and fun if you can plan ahead like that. And now to talk about a little bit of more technical things. I knew a lot of people who didn't know how to use the terminal or even how to use Git. And if you're a student, I would strongly recommend learning those two things, the bare basics. Understand what Git is and version control itself, and the basic commands along with the core concepts. As for the terminal, you really just need to know like 5 or 10 really important commands that you're going to use all the time. It can be a bit difficult when you're working for the first time and you're kind of expected to download your own dependencies through a terminal or pull the code through the terminal because they use a different type of version control, even though typically companies will let you use whatever you're most comfortable in because they just want the job to be done. But yeah, that learning the terminal is a great thing, and I think that most people would agree that you should take some time to really learn that. Another thing, how important architecture is. I know it can be a bit easy to just think architecture is a very high-level understanding of things, and that you just want to get down in the nitty-gritty and just code stuff. But the architecture is really the foundation, should be the foundation of what you're actually building. If you're going to build anything that requires a lot of users or build something at scale with a large team of developers, it's nice to have a fundamental structure that everybody agrees on, so that not only you can build things faster, but also maintain in the long run. So understanding architecture and its importance is very important. Be more active in your group projects. No matter what you build, you want to be as active as possible. Don't just be the person that does all the documentation and doesn't write any of the code and doesn't really understand what's going on, because you're not going to be able to put that on your resume. You can, but whenever you go to an interview and they ask you about that project, chances are you're not going to know much about it because you didn't contribute to most of it. You might hit some key words, but people can tell the difference between the people who put in the work and wrote the code and the people that just idled by next to the team that had one or two people doing all the work. So with that being said, it's also nice to have your work documented in some way, shape, or form. That way you can reference it in the future if you ever decide to apply for a job that's somewhat related to those projects that you worked on. And also it's just good to jog the memory right before interviews. And yeah, just contribute as much as possible. Not only will you be building that for your resume and future interviews, but also the people that you work with, the guys that put in the work too and write the code, they're gonna have a good impression on you as another hard worker, and that's great. That's part of building a connection or a network of engineers that you can stay in touch with for the rest of your life, potentially. Another thing I think is really important is learning how to clean up and present yourself very well for other people, and really focusing on those soft skills. I know that working behind a computer all day and with people who don't socialize as much can really be hard to grow your own social skills, and you might pick up some of their traits. But it's really something that you gotta work on early on, because it does make an impact. And also, once you start working, you start noticing that the successful engineers and the ones who truly understand the business side along with the technical side of things, they have soft skills and know how to communicate not only their problems, but their solutions and their ideas. And those people are typically very effective in the business. And it's easy to recognize those people. And that's just knowing how to sell yourself. And that means knowing your skills, knowing the job market, and knowing what you can offer for companies with your skills. Because the last thing you want to do is be overqualified and underpaid for a position. Or sometimes you might be overpaid and underqualified, which is also bad. So you want to have a good balance between qualification and compensation. But the only way you're going to learn that is by doing research. And the final is knowing the job market. I know I've talked about this before, but I can't stress how important this is. Look up in your area what the job market is like around you. If there are plenty of mobile development jobs, maybe that might be a good area for you to check out to see if you enjoy. Web development is pretty consistent, I would say, in most cities, so that's always a great field to get into. But also look at those job qualifications, because some cities might prefer some programming languages or stacks over others. So if there are 6,000 jobs on Java, I mean, maybe you should learn Java and not Python and Django. That was actually something that I did in college. Was I learned Django, and I built 2 class projects using the Django framework, which, for those of you who don't know, is written in Python. And the job market at the time wasn't very competitive compared to something like Java, which was the language that we learned in school. So I learned Python outside of school and in my internship, which happened to be at State at the time, which kind of makes sense why I really enjoyed it and learned a lot about it and decided to go with Django versus something like Spring Boot. But where I currently live and work, Spring Boot is by far the most apparent framework in the city, and Django and Python is still on the come up around here. But if you go somewhere like, I don't know, Utah or something, I'm sure it's totally different. So yeah, those are some quick tips and regrets, I guess, of being a software engineering student. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you liked it, give it a like, subscribe, comment down below if you'd like to see anything else, or if you guys have any specific questions. And with that being said, I will catch you guys next time.